it's a tool for a person who does middle and long-term investment, and it's not for the prof trader. So of course you might have heard about some tools that are doing some stuff, high frequency trading and something like that. So it's absolutely not from that domain. So what it does in a nutshell, it tries to find an inefficiency on a market, and then you basically place your bid. Of course, you could have possibility to consider that opportunity as a good one or a bad one, depending on how you see the market situation. So mainly it makes you aware about some situations. So me personally, and why was one of the reasons we started this tool, is that I missed some opportunities either to buy or to sell. So today, for instance, I missed the opportunity to sell on the maximum Lufthansa, but that's okay. I mean, it's something to be aware of. And of course, it's an opportunity for you to boost your knowledge on the market mechanics. So the more we will go there, the more it's basically not a one-day thingy. So it's something like a hobby. I call it a profitable hobby. And you will learn and you will see the mechanics, and afterwards you will find your own style, how you want to do that. So, and you will adjust your strategy, of course, as well. So what it's not, just to make sure we are clear here. So it's not for the day trading itself. Sometimes you hear in the group that I'm giving recommendations about the day trading, like we had for pay, and actually it worked. So it's a very good opportunity for the day trading, but I personally missed it as well. So my order didn't work. So I didn't use this tool for that. So I did basically a really standard technical analysis for the day trading, found that opportunity, and then basically gave you the information. So I didn't take it from here. So again, it's not a robot, so it will not do anything for you. It will just automate your things, and later I'll explain which one of those. It's not, as I mentioned already, not a high frequency trading platform. So it will not make any specific operations with your broker or something like that. Right now it's independent. So we have an idea to maybe attach or link some APIs in the future, but again, it's really in the future. It's not replacing your work. So it means that you will have to do your analysis. You will have to make sure that whatever you see there, you interpret the way you believe makes sense. And it does not give, of course, 100 guaranteed results. So if at some point in time you will see a signal 100, you have to take some circumstances into account. And the more you do that, the more experience you will have and the more confidence you will have with your things. But of course, it's just, it's a mathematical and technical stuff that is encountered there. So of course, you have to be aware that the investments in general are more psychological rather than the mathematical. So if it was completely mathematical, there would not be any drops and raises like we have in what we see right now immediately. It doesn't make any specific forecasts. So like you have to buy this day and that day. So everything I mentioned there, it was basically personal opinion that I was sharing based on some reasons I have in my head, and sometimes I guess it, sometimes I'm not. So that's a normal thing. It's basically like how to find an interesting time for you when you have nothing to do. And it will not tell you exact scenario. So during the crisis. So don't expect, and I don't believe that there is any tool. So I sent one of the videos already in YouTube, maybe you have seen it, where basically you see really different information from the different banks, from different people, zillions of opinions. So this tool will also not solve this kind of things. So don't expect that it will give you really 100% recommendations during the crisis. So you really have to think what is your strategy behind that. And of course, tool will automate a lot of things for you. So reason for all that things that it's not doing is simple. So for the same information that I shared with you, some of you have taken the decision and for instance, they mimicked the action I did and it went like this. Some people don't, right? So the tool is exactly the same. So for exactly the same information, we all take the different decisions. So whatever you will see there, really switch on your brain. If you have questions, of course, I'm happy to discuss it in the chat and in any other opportunities that are there. But of course, it's just to be clear for everybody as from the beginning that it doesn't solve all the possible investment things in the world. So that's it. The tool right now, the way it's made, it's to automate a daily routine and simplify action to analyze the data based on your personal and take your personal decisions. Before any deal, as I said, I always check and take the decision whether I need to buy or to sell. So I always keep myself responsible for all the actions that I do. You can think about and why this tool is actually needed. So you can think in a way, I'm a dividend investor or I'm purely a long-term investor. So I don't care, like, okay, this is the crisis, it will be gone. And usually like Warren Buffett is saying, but it's completely different range of money, people, and awareness and possibility to impact, of course. So for me, I personally care. So I really see a lot of dividend and long-term strategies right now having a situation, no strategy, because basically they don't know what to do. So for me, this is the tool which is made in a way to see the really high level picture. And normally situations like we had with this crisis, so you remember that in the February, it was clear that the market was quite overhit. So, and that's what basically tool was showing as well. So if you would check the information about what tool is thinking, it is overheated or actually it's very cold, then it was really overheated. So that's why I was selling and I was sharing the information with you. So during December, January, we sold it out. So that's where it really helps. So it tells you right now, yeah, your car is driving 300 kilometers per hour. Make sure you drop your speed, otherwise you might have a situation. So that's really high level how to explain it. So what it does, it helps you interpret the data and show it to you in the graphical way, of course. And it has 4 major values. So as a mid-term investor, you need that to better be aware of what is going on today and how would you want to place your bid. So first of all, it's about first value. It's about build your reliable watch list. So it means that whatever you have, whatever you follow, there are like 40,000 different stocks in the world, right? Some of them are very cheap. Some of them are very expensive. Everybody knows Amazon. Maybe somebody that haven't heard about today, but now we all know about it. So it's actually how to build your watch list. So there are some specific tools that I will show what we have and how you have to interpret it, what it actually means. So that whatever you have in your watch list, you're confident that you're feeling okay with those stocks. That's the important point. So then, of course, it does technical analysis. So it does really, we have quite some ideas, and in this specific version, we decided to keep it very simple. So we didn't put everything we've already tested and made, because again, it was either very complex or the functionality was a little bit fluffy. So we will add all that kind of stuff. It's an ongoing process. Every evening right now we are doing something, and the moment we will feel that this is something we are ready to share, you will actually have it. So another thing is it's a portfolio management. So some of you have already tried the first part of that. I know you had some obstacles, so we will not solve it right now. So basically I will just go through the functionality and I will show you in 5 minutes. And then we will discuss it in a private message or something like that. So again, we just released it. So there might be some bugs, there might be some inefficiencies. So we are happy to hear that. And then we will fix it, of course. So then the first one, it's to get the notifications. So to be aware what is happening, and if you want to buy or if you want to sell. The idea is that you're not sitting with 500 portfolio watch list, and then you only do it day by day. It's something that happens automatically behind the scene. So every 20 minutes, the tool is making some specific analysis, and there is something interesting. It will make you notify. It will notify you about this kind of things. what is sorry, what is most important, I think, is actually you can adjust the technical signals, right? So if you feel, some of you are aware a bit more, some less, but if you're aware about those basic parameters that I will share that you can use, you can adjust it. So for instance, you can give more priority to this or more priority to that, and then the signals you will see will be individual to you, right? So that's an interesting one, and this is something actually what I haven't had in the other specific tools that I saw. It doesn't make this kind of weight analysis. So what else? Just to be clear, what this tool is doing, you can do yourself. So you can go into 5 different or 10 different websites, you can see the information, you can check it, and then you can take your decision. So for me personally, with my experience, it will take around maybe 2 minutes, right? So for one stock. My watch list right now is around 500 stocks that I follow out of everything I know. If you multiply 500 by 2 minutes, you need to have something like 16 hours to check the data, right? So this is exactly the case why, first of all, I started with the Excel file. Then basically I did some formulas, macros, and so on, and that was really crazy. So it was really non-scalable thinking, and that was basically the starting point to automate all that kind of stuff that you don't want to do. So that you actually have to do as your homework, but it takes too much time. So of course you can do it for 10 stocks, it's not a problem. But for 500 or 100, which is a typical watch list of the person, it's already completely different domain. So, and of course for the performance, right? So this is a very important one. For a long period of time, I didn't know what was my real performance. I was saying, I think it was 40% last year, maybe 50, and then depending on the cross currency and stuff. So it was a complete mess. So all that stuff is there. So it's really a tool for the middle and long-term investing. So first part right now, for those people that are not snoring yet, I will share my screen. So this is actually the blank user. The moment you log in, you will have this information. For those who haven't yet sent the information, you can give it to Kirill, he's here, or you can send it in the chat, so you will be able to see it. So one thing I will do just right now immediately, I will show you what I showed today in the YouTube video. So I think for those who are in the chat, you will be able to get information. You already got the information, and so I know you even applied that, so it's good. That's actually one of the improvements I already put there. So if you delete the transaction, it goes to the portfolio, which is selected as the standard one, so that's a little bit annoying. So of course, if you have some transactions, if you have 2 transactions or 0 transactions, it's easy for you. Then you can actually just edit. I will later on show you how to do that. But if you have like some other people, like I had more than 500 transactions, and doing one by one, it was completely messy. So you have the import functionality. I'll show you how it's done. So this is completely, if you're completely new, that's what you will see. You start from here. You have absolutely blank thingy. If you want, you can do it this way. And how to start. So you have over here an information import. So you go to the transactions, import data. The file, I think, was transactions 6, promising name. So right now I've uploaded 2 of my latest sell and buy orders. So it's transactions for SBAU. This is something I was buying since February, so I put all that position. Now this is something I sold just a couple of days ago, so immediately see the realized profit for that in the currency that you have there. We already had one question in the group, like if you upload the transaction, you don't need to put any euro or USD or any other currency. So if you just need to put the right ticker name. So this is the ticker name. If you put it correct, then the tool will understand that this is euro because this is traded on the European exchange. And then it will do the conversion. So first, what you have as a user, so you upload your transactions. Next thing you have to do is that you need to deposit something. So let's imagine in this specific case, I started in January. 1st of January, I put, for example, 30K. And it's in euro. Or if you want, let's put it in dollar. So the moment you put that, you will be able to see some changes, right? So this is actually the cash you transferred to your broker. So I know some of you have made it once, some of you have made it twice. I did it multiple times to different brokers. So you just have to inject everything you put there with the exact date. Like that, the tool will be able will be able to understand what you're doing. So here you see the high level info. So you see a day profit loss. So that's what you have today. You have your portfolio information about buy and sell signals. So everything you have in portfolio, what's the status? So if we have right now in portfolio only one stock, you will of course you will only see that over here, right? It's a representation of the one. But if you have multiple, like I have, you will basically have an average temperature, right? So you have maximum to sell 100% or maximum to buy. So right now you see it's in between, it's very low, so it's less than 50. And in fact, it has, because it's a technical formulas, it can be a bit more, you will have some kind of a, how to say it, you have some signal that is also sell that could be considered as a sell signal as well. At the same time, you can buy, but of course, the more you have buy, the less you have sell. So that's pretty much how you have to treat it. What is the unrealized PL? This is something that you have, this is basically you see over here. So with one stock, you see it's exactly the same. This is what I have right now with Ganza. So if I sell it tomorrow, right now you can consider it as the paper loss or paper profit. So if you sell it, you will be able to convert it into the cash, and then you will basically already have a committed value. Realized PL, it's everything you have sold today, and then you see not today, but during the period of time. So you see that right now in those transactions, I sold SBAW, and in April I have 8,000 euros, I think, right? So that's what I have. I have free cash, which is 67% right now, and only one transaction here. And total profit loss, it's actually taken into account if you have a non-realized loss or non-realized profit, it gives you the total information. So in these conditions, like I just showed, so you have cash of 30K. If you invested that in the beginning of this, as of the beginning of this year, you have made this number of transactions. You have right now this portfolio. You can have the performance. So what is your performance? You can put yearly. So we put 1st of January, and then the date that we have today. The moment you press calculate, it will actually show you the performance you have. So it starts from 1st of January, so you basically did nothing. You have some differences because you have a cross currency. And right now you see how it performs. So right now, my end year-to-date performance with those two transactions is 35% per year. In general. On a yearly basis, if I will continue to do the same way, this would be a 154% transactions. Percent of the return. While you see S&P is minus 1072. So S&P we have here S&P 500 as a comparison. So you can actually understand what is your performance comparing to the market. So that's important to know. And of course, it takes into account all the transactions that you have in dollars and euros, where you can make these selections. So you can make it here. So right now, by default, we have taken only 3 currencies. You don't have Ukrainian hryvnia or Russian rubles or anything else. We only have euros, dollars, and pound. I know majority of you have transferred dollars or euros. So if you really want to, you see right now everything here is in euros, but if you want to feel that you have more money, you put it in dollars, and then your 7K becomes 8,595, and then you feel immediately much better because 8,000 is better than 7, right? Then what we have here, it's a load prices. So basically by default, it will load 5-year prices. The moment you do the moment the tool makes any analysis or you want to see it in a graph, you will see 5 years. Of course, it is possible to do 25 years, but this would be a really let's say, strange analysis, because normally you don't need that old data. If you want to show some performance for your friends, you want to show the graph, for instance, or I don't know, portfolio transactions, you can hide the amounts. What it will do, it will basically show only the how much do you have, right? So if at some point in time, half a year, you will have we will all have a nice entry point with the crash that I really expect, and we will put our money and we will all be happy. You will have a portfolio, and then you will have a beer session with somebody of your friends. You will be able to discuss how you performed there, and then you would not want to share how much really money you invested there. You maybe want to, for whatever reason, you can hide it, and then you will say, yeah, I have 32% in Lufthansa, and then I have a little bit of cash, but you don't disclose the amount. So basically, by switching that back, you have that. So you have some information over here, which is send signals to. So it can be sent either to the Telegram or to the email that you linked over here, or to the both. So what happens if you have Telegram here? Nothing to send because there was no signals. Okay, that's clear. And later I will explain, maybe with the technical analysis, what to do over here. So now let's go to the first section that I mentioned. Maybe I started from the third one, which is a portfolio management. So that's what I just explained to you. Maybe any one of you have any questions, so that I can answer for the portfolio part, and we will park it here. If no questions, I will go to the next one. So if you have a question, just unmute and go.
There was a question in chat.
Which one?
Yeah.
Let me open it.
Let me read it. Can we use another benchmark instead of S&P 500?
Yes, it is possible. Which one? Who asked the question? Just which one? What do you expect?
Yeah,
no, I understand.
It was me who asked the question. So my question is, let's say in Yahoo Finance, I can compare any stocks towards each other, yeah,
yes.
Performance at any period of time. So can we do the same? Like maybe I can use benchmark as Nasdaq index, or maybe I just use some another stock. Is it possible?
For the moment, it is not possible. So why we have made it this way? So I mean, technically speaking, everything is possible. It should not be a big difference. Why we have selected specifically S&P 500? So S&P 500 is usually considered as the broad market. So where you have all the different companies that are top 500. So, and the typical comparison in the hedge funds and everywhere is based on the S&P 500. So you have also Russell 2000, you have Nasdaq, but all of those are having their specifics. So Nasdaq is really about the technology one. So you don't have companies that are, I don't know, doing the something in the oil or something like that. It's really about the other. For the Russell, it's a much smaller capitalization, so it's also a broader one. So the really typical one in terms of comparison of the portfolio is actually the S&P 500.
Yeah, I just wanted to add something here. Is that basically S&P is in fact a market standard. So
no,
even
it's not a standard. It's not a standard. It's a relative thingy.
What I'm saying is that at the asset managers, for example, portfolio managers, they have bonuses linked to how much they beat S&P.
That's true.
For example, that's why we basically, because everybody's comparing the performance mostly with S&P. That's why we basically hard-coded it to S&P. But of course, it's not a big deal to make it possible to select another benchmark. And also, Eugene, I just wanted to ask you maybe to show also the performance in the absolute figures as well, because you didn't mention this.
Here.
Yeah.
So that's what it is, how you have to understand that. So maybe just as a comment. So yes, it is possible, but typically, like Kirill just mentioned, is something that you compare to S&P 500, because your portfolio normally should not stick to only, I don't know, only NASDAQ based and only, or I don't know, some specific stuff. So that's why you have to have a broad comparison, because otherwise what is the option is that you just can buy the S&P 500 ETF and then you do nothing, right? So that's basically the comparison. That's what 60% of people are doing. And then you want to know, at least I am talking about myself, and I know some people are sharing the same, that you want to know how better you are comparing to the others that are doing, let's say, almost nothing. So because you will do some actions, right? So you're basically doing the better the better stock picking to understand how you perform, and your actions are giving you more performance. So here is the interesting chart, how you have to understand that. So basically, this is the point where you injected your 30K 1st of January, right? So, and you did nothing. So you see that for the period up till the 4th or up till 9th of February, you did nothing. So then what you did, you actually invested something in the securities. So securities is actually the broad name for the stocks. So you invested something, you have no profit over here. So actually the first day you did it, you committed the negative return. So it's minus 471 you see there, and zero profit. Then you actually invest more. Your portfolio is going down, which means that right now the price is going down, and this down you see on the red bar over here. So you see, it's like the energy, it's going from your pockets to somewhere to the market. So the red line below is the negative performance. So at some point in time with this deal, only this one, I was in minus 8K, which is quite bad. Then it started to perform a bit better. So you see your portfolio is growing, your securities are growing. So there were 4 transactions. And then at some point you see you sold it out. You sold it out, and then on April 22, you had already 34K 653. And then I invested, and then it was pure cash. So with those 2 transactions, you immediately went into the 100% of cash. So on 23rd of April, you would see over here, completely blue line, completely blue pie with 100% cash. And performance, you see already higher than it was before. And then I invested in the other stock, Lufthansa. You see, I don't have any negative return for the moment. I have only the non-realized profit, which is a green part over here. And the total portfolio value with this unrealized profit is 36K 177. So this is how you can analyze that. So you can, whatever you prefer. So if you want to see what is your downside at some point in time, what is your unrealized profit, you will be able to see it over here. So I think it's a very interesting one. Thanks for sharing this one. I didn't use it quite lately, so I even forgot about it. So for the other questions, anything else? The sound of silence. So then I go to the first one that I mentioned. So I started with the third one. Now we will go to the first one. So how to build your watch list. That's a very interesting one. So which options do you have? The option number 1 is that you have your own analysis, right? So I know in the chat, some people are sending what they were sending before we released the tool, like, can you send me the performance of this one? Or no, can you send me the signals and how the tool can analyze this stock or that stock at this time? So you do your own assessment, right? Maybe somebody's reading Yahoo Finance, somebody is reading some other things, somebody had a friend who have made zillions of euros in some other stuff, and so on and so on. So you pick up some stuff, right? I know a couple of, we have a person in the group, I will not give a name, there was a discussion from somebody who was working in a company and they are preparing some specific product. And then there was a question like, yeah, you need to invest in this one because we're gonna release it. It's gonna grow like hell and so on and so on. It's linked to the pharma. In pharma, typically you have this story all the time. They all work on the coronavirus. I should not say this because it will be on the YouTube. So they are working on some corona stuff or whatever kind of stuff to put it on the market. And then of course everybody's having the expectation that it's going to grow, but then they fail, they go down and so on and so on. So it's a very volatile. I think biopharma is the most volatile thing that you can see right now. And then you buy. So because you have a belief that, okay, there is a person I trust, I know this person is working there. So some rumors in the corridors are giving you belief that it's going to work. I personally don't believe in that. In that specific case, it was a very negative one. So I always suggest to go and check, to have an opinion on the technical and of the technical analysis, what it actually looks, how it actually looks like right now. And then it was really no go for a couple of stocks that are there. So it's one option, and I really encourage you to go and take that fundamental analysis. So it's, for me, it's actually like a game. I like to analyze different markets. I know quite some interesting things in the telecommunication domain, so it's my point of expertise, and that's how I can interpret that into the stocks. If you have your own personal information from a typical work you do, you should really use that. So you know the companies you work with. If you know that this company is going to grow, like, I don't know, I knew about Twilio a really long time ago. So I was, the moment they were on the market, I bought them because I had a belief that I know this company is doing something interesting. So no promo for Twilio, just to be clear. So it's just my specific example. So do that. Another two things we have here. One is really interesting one, and it's really for the long term. Another one is for the short term things. So what is the long term? All the companies, if you let's take an example of any stock, Apple. So if you open Apple, what you will have, no, not here. So in general, for any stock that you have, you can have around 60 to 70% of institutional investors. So for example, in Apple, 70% of money belong to a different hedge funds, investment fund, pension funds, blah, blah, blah funds, and so on and so on. Index funds like SPY, the very well-known one, so the S&P 500. And what it means, so it means that the market is controlled by those guys. Those guys are having money much more than, I'm pretty much right now with everybody we're talking, they have much more than we have all together. And it's really millions of euros. So, and this is actually regulated. So any investment company that has more than $100 million in the operations, they must publish their results and their portfolio every quarter. So after 45 days of each quarter, they are obliged to put their portfolio and their actions that they did in the previous quarter to the SEC. So SEC, it's the Securities Exchange something Commission. So it's a US-based thingy. So what it means is that actually for any investment that is their hedge fund, public fund, whatever kind of fund, they give you all the information they did in the previous quarter. So for me, I try to see what they are doing because they have 60-70%, and what they do actually impacts the market the most. So right now we expect, we are in the end of April, so the first calendar quarter ended in the end of March. 45 days gives us 14-15 May, so you will be able to know at 14-15th of May what they did in Q1. So over here, this is the funds over here. This is a specific tab. So what we do, we check all the information. So there is a specific code. We go to the securities SEC website. Let's put it this way to simplify it. We check all the data they report, and then we compile it over here. So what you see here, you see the recent data the latest we have is the Q4. So that's what we have. That's the latest one they reported in February 15 this year. So you also have Q3 data, Q2 data, and as I said, in the beginning of, in the middle of May, you will have first quarter 2020. This is extremely interesting because you know that in February and March, all those guys, they placed their bids, and they did, and I'm really curious what they did. Because were they buying, I don't know, all this travel industry that suffered the most, or they actually dropped it, and what was their performance? Also, you can analyze by specific ticker, or only by specific ticker. So here, let's give an example of Q4, and you want to understand what happened to Apple, like what investors, how they treated that in the fourth quarter. Maybe let's also add the third quarter over here. So you basically put the ticker or the name, and that's what you have here. So in Q3 and Q4, the Apple market capitalization is like this. Here is the free float. The most important, shares change. So you see that those guys, in fact, in Q3 and in Q4, they were dropping they were selling their stocks, all of them. You see the exact number of shares over here. What you have here as well is two things, calls and puts. For those who don't know, calls, it's actually the option. So you don't buy, it's like the insurance. So for instance, you don't want to place right now the bid to buy the one-to-one shares of Apple, but you can buy a call option, which will give you the expiration date, for example, in 2 months, where you will say, I want to buy Apple in 2 months with the price that is defined by the option. So that's it. I see some questions with chat. We'll come back to that. Yes, we will gonna talk about insiders. That's it. It seems that some of you know more than potentially others could know. That's good. So we'll get back to that. So you see that actually the real shares, they dropped. They increased the number of calls comparing to Q3 in the previous quarters. You always have the comparison comparing to, so Q4 comparing to Q3, Q3 comparing to Q2, and so on and so on. So they actually increased the number of calls. So in the future, they expected to buy something with of Apple. So most probably in Q1. So we will see it in the results, if they did it or not. And it's not an obligation. So what is important to know is that it's not an obligation. So call or put, it's actually the option. So you decide whether you want to execute it or not. And you have the same for the puts. So let's maybe take another example. I don't know, anything. So if you just want to make a full analysis, what I do actually, and in the group I sent you a couple of Excel files, I think twice already, where basically you have some specific things. Of course, it's shitloads of data, just to be clear, right? So if you want to analyze some specific stock like Apple, you can do it like I just showed. If you want to understand the groups, for example, mega caps. So mega cap, it's the companies that are valued more than $300 billion. There are not a lot of companies like this. So let's remove Q3 and make the analysis of only, of the super large caps. I don't want to see Mickey Mouse companies. I really want to see the super big ones. So you see immediately Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Johnson & Johnson, JP Morgan, Google, and so on and so on, right? It's actually one page only. So right now you can analyze like this, what they did in Q1. So you see that Tencent holding, maybe it's actually a little bit of a bug in the data because that's a very extraordinary thing. So it's actually how it was reported on the SEC. So the bugs are possible there as well. We take it one-to-one. But of course, if you will have doubts, we will check and we will see if it's like that. So let's maybe focus on the next one. So Roche, the Vanguard. So Vanguard is actually a huge fund that is, if you buy ETFs, usually you buy it from Vanguard. then Alibaba. So you see that Alibaba in Q4 increased by 2%. What is interesting, for example, to show you, I remember I saw it in Q2, I think. Let's drop everything here. So I think my point is clear, right? So if you are entitled to work only with the super big companies, you select those. If you want to work with Mickey Mouse Telecom or Mickey Mouse Company, you will actually go a bit into this zone, so 50 million or something like that. Usually, just for your information, I know you have, I saw those questions, so you have some attempts. You see that the stock goes minus 30% in a day, and then you think, should I buy it or not? So like, for example, we had the recent BAO. That's a company that is around 50 million or 100 million right now. So performance of those companies are super fast. So that's what you need to know. So if you're doing this analysis, this is mainly for the day trading, because you need to have a different speed. So you can check afterwards with BAO, but it really goes like super fast. You won't see this with Amazon. So unless, I don't know, something super crazy will happen. So let's not stop on this one. Let's analyze Tesla. I know some people like Tesla here. So here is what they have, right? So you see immediately that in Q2 2019, the number of calls increased dramatically. So, and also this was the moment when Tesla started to skyrocket. So they started to grow in Q3. So they were around $155, $200 per share. And that's actually when we also bought those kind of stuff and sold it out. So in Q3, they increased and they grew up to 350 and something like that. So this is the information you can get from this analysis. So you see that investment funds are very bullish on this one. So in Q3, it was the opposite. Then in Q1, the different situation. So there are a lot of other things that is happening to Tesla. And if you're trying to do something with this company, it's kind of, you need fundamentals as well, because what was happening in Q4, it was some sort of the extraordinary thing as well, but not for this now. So this is actually very interesting information. Do you have any question right now for what I just showed, or everything is crystal clear? And of course, afterwards, you will be able to play with the full functionality yourself. 1, 2, 3. We go to the next one. So we just had a question about insider trades. So for those who don't know what is insider trades, it's something for the short-term things. So just maybe as a final comment. So what I usually do, the moment I have information, the moment I will have information of Q1, I will actually prepare my watch list. Some companies I will add into the watch list. Some of those I will remove since it's no longer interesting to me. So like that, I can concentrate on something which was recently updated and where the game has changed, or we have odds that are mid-long term are very interesting for me as for the investor. So just to park that point. So insider trades. Insiders, these are the people that are working for the company on the, let's say on the C-level of the companies. So if you go, for instance, to the website like this, SEC form insider trading, and if you click ticker Facebook, you will see that every day there is a sell signal, right? So actually, who is selling? Some VP, Chief Revenue Officer, some CAA, I don't even know what it is, CFO. These are all the people that know almost every day selling their stocks of Facebook. So what it is, it's actually another obligation of the people that are having C-level VP or any kind of director titles in the company that is publicly listed. If they buy from the public market, like we do, so when you buy your stocks with the broker you have, you actually buy it from the, let's say, what is called free float. So it's shares that are available to buy and to sell on the market. So if those guys, the C-levels are from Facebook, are buying or selling their stocks, the same day or I don't remember, let's say the same day, they have to put that information into the SEC report to inform that, okay, they did some action. So there was a recent scandal of Proximus' previous CEO, that she sold some stocks after the announcement of results, and then there was a commission who came to her apartment and blah blah blah. So it's all linked to that. So if you're a person like this, you will of course know about that if you do some kind of specific things. Because why they do that? Because they have some additional information. So we don't report in here about sell. So for instance, if you this is a good example of Facebook, not sporadically I put it here. So if you open insider traders and you see that these guys are selling like hell every day, what it means? Does it mean that you have to sell it? No. In reality, they all get options, they all have all the bonuses, or they could have actually so much shares, like you could have, like for instance, Mark Zuckerberg has, that if he will sell every day, I remember during the autumn 2019, he was selling every day for $20 million. But even if he would continue like that, selling it every day, he would have to spend 100 years to sell all his shares. So it's not the reason that the company is bad and they just drop their shares because they know results are going to be shitty or they expect shitty results. It's actually because they have so much of those. So it's important actually when they buy. So for the companies that are buying, for instance, this is the company. I remember this ones. So it's quite a small company, but you see immediately buy and sell, right? So what we do over here, we actually fetch all the data that you have, and you can see by the symbol and the date that somebody have made. So for instance here, the Coca-Cola. So this guy, Chang Liza, Chief People Officer, also Senior VP, with the price 46.6, she traded 160. She bought 165k shares for the total amount of 76,900 with derivative. So it's actually the call option, and that's how much shares she owns right now. So she has 12,000 shares for the moment. So what is important here is that if you see this kind of information for a company, Coca-Cola, and you believe that Coca-Cola is something you need to invest, personally, I have right now stocks in Coca-Cola, so I believe it's a really good company. Also, Warren Buffett has a lot of shares over there, so if you will see his investment strategy, this is a very good company, right? So you can treat it this way. This is actually one of the examples of what you can do, how you can have your watch list built. You can see, for example, if you believe that Warren Buffett is a smart guy, you can see his portfolio and add all the portfolio in your watch list, and you will see that, for instance, today this lady she got some shares, call options, and she believes that the price will go up because whoever they could sell for whatever reason, but they buy only for one reason, because they believe that they will make money, right? Nobody will do it just to lose the money. So, and that's their personal private money. So that's important to know. So this is what insider trader means. So you will be able to see it normally in the notifications. So right now you don't see it, but let's, for example, add. So if you see this information and it's the first time you see Coca-Cola in this world, you add it. You add it to your watch list. It's visible over here, and if it's in your watch list, you will be notified that Coca-Cola, this is the insider trade that happened, so you would know about that. You also actually see some interesting information from the portfolio management, but it's actually a third one, so I will not fourth one, so I will not go to that point for the moment. So that's how you need to understand this point. Important thing here. So details, it's if you don't have any information here, it means that they bought specifically shares. So this company, I don't know what it is, Citizens Financial Services, first time I hear about it. So for the price $54, they bought 600 shares for this amount, and this is the total amount, and this is the price they paid, and that's a really stocks that they bought 1-to-1. Here with this lady, it was derivative, so it was a call option. See question? Great feature. Thank you very much. If you have any questions right now, you can ask, whether for the functionality or for the insider trader, so I will be able to explain. One, two, three, and we go to the next one. So that's how you build a first point. So in the beginning, it was a long introduction from my side. I think it was needed. So I stopped with the build your watch list. So I mentioned right now three things: your personal analysis, your friends that you trust, that know what they are doing, and you believe it makes sense, what they say. Then you can have funds information. Let's say this is for the quarterly basis. So you readjust, or you add, or you remove some stuff which you don't want to think about, and you add what you believe makes sense. And quite fast, if you see that, for example, you have somebody buying Coca-Cola or anything from your watch list, you can actually use that as information as a bullish side, right? So we are really speak here about mainly about the long actions. Long actions, it means you buy when you believe it's going to grow. Short actions, it means that you buy, there are some specific instruments where you believe that the price will go down. So that's how you treat it. Right now, everything I explained, it's in the mindset that you believe you buy and it's going to grow. So the capitalization of the company, of the shares. So let's go to the next one. I think this would be the very interesting one. So right now you have decided that a company, by the way, you have seen already that I've added a company either from insider trades or from the funds. You are able to add it in your watch list. So let's say I want to add Microsoft as well. So the tool will ask you, do you want to add it in your watch list? Yes, I want to add it to my watch list. So, and then we go to the technical analysis. You immediately see Microsoft and Coca-Cola. These are two companies that I just added. So this would be also strange not to see. I think this should be also an improvement, but we'll do that later. So because we have some transactions, and normally I think it should also be in the screener over here, but let's take it later. So in the screener, these are the companies that you selected in your watch list. So screener is basically your watch list. And here you can do a few actions. You can buy at some point, or you can delete. You also immediately see the automatically calculated signal. So there is a server that is doing some specific actions every 20 minutes, and then it adjusts the information either to buy or to sell. It's actually just two flows that happens automatically. You also see some important information that, for example, Microsoft is going to report just in a couple of days. So this is information you have to treat very careful. So for example, if you have this information here, you have to be aware that the biggest volatility is happening either during the crisis or during some specific announcements. For example, I don't know, somebody will have information that Bill Gates have made something stupid and whatever kind of stuff, and everybody knows that this guy has a very big impact on this information, on this company. So it can be negative, or the most predictable one, it's actually earnings. So earnings, it's when the company publishes the results. So when they say, okay, here is the first quarter, we did it like this, our earnings per share grew or fell or whatever kind of stuff. So, and that's where actually investment bankers, they all make their estimations. I will show you later on where you can see it, and they say, okay, this is gonna grow or it's gonna fall, and then the moment everybody has the data, they readjust it, and that's the moment where it can drop or it can go down or it can grow, right? So that's why if you see this information that upcoming earnings are there, and you have, for example, a very good profit, and you think and you heard in the news or something like that that the company might have a bad results, better sell. Because then you fix your profit and you decrease your odds, so you don't have a situation that the stock will go down. I know a couple of times with BlackBerry, I failed quite one time, then later I was able to recuperate it. But just before the earnings, I thought the earnings would be really great in Q3, and actually it was okay, but for whatever reason, the market considered it badly, and then it dropped. And then I was staying with the stock for another 3-4 months. And then later I was able to rebalance it and sell it with profit. So everything was fine. But still, of course, you could have done something better with that stocks. So that's how you need to understand the screener. From the screener, so it's your watch list. Right now we have made limitation of I think 500, 600 different stocks that you can put here. So first of all, I don't want to see all the possible instruments in the world, and normally you don't need it. So because it's going to be too messy. So 600 I think is quite enough. We will see based on your feedback if it's okay or if it's not. For the moment we keep it 600 and my personal is 500. So you will have 500 things over here. You see, for instance, that right now it's 24 out of 100 and 21 out of 100. So it's actually like, I would say, not fish, not meat, not clear. So it's actually nothing to do with this one from the technical point of view. But now let's make the analysis. So the moment you click to any stock, you basically have a short version of your screener over here. You only have information about the symbol. You have the actual price, the latest 20 minutes ago, and you have the change within a day. So this day it actually dropped. And you see buy and sell signal. Now you have the chart. Normally it's a 1-year chart, but you can either adjust it to the terms you want. So for instance, if you want to analyze it from, I don't know, 1st of this year and so on and so on, 1st of January this year, or you want to do 2 years, 5 years, whatever, it is possible. There are 3 things you can do. Line, I would never suggest that one if you do technical analysis, because you will not be able to see what it is, specifically how the chart behaves. Better try to do the candles one. It gives you much more information. And as you can see, you can do it on a weekly. So each candle will be either weekly or daily. You don't have minutes, you don't have 5 minutes. Again, because the tool we have made is not for the day trading. It's really for the mid and long-term traders, so that you will be able to put your estimations like this. For day trading, you need to have different analysis, different tools, and different type of actions. You actually need to have much more monitors, and you need to perform inefficiencies on a daily basis, and you basically compete with other things. Why it is like that, and why I actually believe it makes sense, because you are competing with the high frequency trading, with a lot of professional guys that are doing it as their major work. So if you're doing day trades, you actually have really a lot of competition. And what we do, usually we are trying to find inefficiency. So to find inefficiency within a day, it's a bit easier, but you have to be much more fast. On a long term, right now, as you can imagine, we all have different opinions, and so as investment bankers, they have their different opinions on whether the travel industry will grow fast or not fast. Same for the market in general, either it's gonna drop or not. So right now, actually, this is the information where possibility to find inefficiency is higher on a midterm or on a long term. That's why this tool is made like this. So we don't have any intention for the moment to add any minutes or something like that. It's just not the way we believe it makes sense, but we'll see how it goes. So you already see it's in the watch list. Maybe you don't know what is this company about. You can always check. It's Microsoft information, that this is the sector, what kind of stuff they do. So official info. You'll see it's in your watch list. If at some point in time you want to buy this company, so for instance, you placed your order based on the technical analysis or any other analysis, it will go to your portfolio. I will later show how it works. But let's go to the real technical analysis. So here are the information, the really basic one. I know there are zillions of indicators in this world. These are really the super standard one and basic one that you potentially want to see. And then the moment you click it, you have some information that you want that you will be able to adjust. So you see immediately this stuff over here. So that's really for the analysis, for the graphical analysis, what it does. Here, it's actually how the signal is working. So right now, you don't see any signal. Right now, this is a total signal, so it takes into account some information. I will later explain which one. You see here the information below. It's actually buy or sell signal. The one that you see here, buy, sell. So red one is sell, buy is the buy. It's clear. So you see, for example, in this point with the settings, the tool was saying that it's actually good to buy I was personally not buying that one, and this is actually the example that I was not so sure that this is the lowest point on the market, right? Because I thought that maybe the market will go down, and actually I expected to see Microsoft around 100. That was my belief. I was wrong, and that's fine. Sometimes you're wrong, sometimes you're not, and that's actually a good thing that the tool was a bit more smarter than me. So what it does specifically right now, that's where I'm saying that we have not made the full list of all the stuff here. It actually takes into the information 3 major with 1 deviation of the parameters. So, and here is the weight. That's what you do here. So for instance, it takes into account right now the levels. I will show you what levels are. So it's a support and resistance. Maybe better, I will explain right now trading signals. So what it does, and then I will show how you can impact it and how you can adjust it. That would be a bit more correct. So you have total signal. However, if you want to see, for instance, only signal for one technical parameter RSI, it is also possible. And this is how it's going to look like. So some of you know what it is, somebody doesn't know. So start with the total one. So that would be the really starting point. Now, what it shows here, it's a support and resistance lines. So support and resistance lines are actually levels. These are the things that potentially I would explain like this. So it's either the change of the trend, or it's a level where a lot of investment decisions are being made. So for example, it's clear that at this point, it was something on the market that it was no longer possible to grow, and it started to fall. So there was a decision, a quite big one, that no longer this company can go down. Somebody started to sell it. Somebody started to commit the profit. The same over here. So for instance, you see all this zone, that it's actually a long consolidation period. So it's really flattish. You have some fluctuation, so you cannot really make a lot of money over here. However, then it was consolidated and started to grow. So, and then grew up to this point. It formed some specific levels over here. So basically, what I would suggest, always try to put strength. So you see over here, the resistance and support levels, and its power. Let's say it's a power. So you see why this level is very big one, and why it is actually very powerful, because for half a year almost the price was already here. There was a lot of decisions made by different players all over the world, and it was staying in this specific range. So it's consolidated and it had a lot of support. So it's one of the reasons why it actually bounced over here. Because it was a very good support. A lot of companies, a lot of investment bankers, they didn't want this price to go down. They wanted this price to stay here, and they actually made some specific mechanics to make sure that the price will bounce. So that's why if you see it this way, right now price is over here, right? So above you have resistance, it's red line, and you see the level of this resistance, and you see below the support. So normally, if you zoom a little bit, you see that at this point, price is over here, and potentially the next support, so it's in the trend, so next support will happen over here at 168.19. There is quite complex logic behind how we implement it, but in general, the logic is that the more price is staying at this price range, at this price level, the more power we give. And that's what you see here. If price doesn't stop, so for instance, between those two levels, you see the price is just went down, went up, and then went down like this. So that's how it's formed. It's also visible over here. It's a good confirmations of the level, both this one and that one. This is typically what the market makers are doing. And this is just a confirmation that the levels are working over here. You can adjust it as well. So what it actually does, it takes the period, each day it takes the closing and opening period for 1 year. It with some tolerance and merge thingy, because you imagine that the price was staying, the full list of the price is here, but then you'd make some sort of the consolidation and merging within the range of 5%. Let's put, for example, 1%, and you will see what it will happen. Right now, you see a lot of lines, right? So these lines were formed in reality because a lot of players, somebody, for example, Warren Buffett bought here, they placed a lot of money, somebody put here, blah, 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 blah. And then it formed a lot of levels. But how will you build your decision, right? Right now, you just want to know what level it will actually go to. So if you make the merge, it actually consolidates the level into the most powerful one and gives you this information. So in this zone, you have a range between 138 and 134. And if, for example, how you have to understand it, if the prices go into this level, this is a very, very powerful support zone. You should actually buy at this point, and this would be a good possibility to make money. But of course, if the market is going crazy or whatever happens to Microsoft, this level can be broken as well, could be broken as well, and the price will actually go down, down, down. So that's about that. Strength. So right now you see the auto selection. So it's actually the tool doing as well. There is a logic behind that is doing specifically the automated strength. So it shows right now 3. Automatically it calculated that the power should be, the minimum power to be shown is 3. However, if you want to show a manual one starting from the strength 1, you will have a bit more levels right now. It will take into the consideration 1 and 2 and so on and so on. I personally always use auto by default because, again, it's something that most probably, because on each stock you will have different different powers. In some cases you will have 10, in some others you will have 1 up to 5. So it will automatically adjust. However, if you want to have more information, you always can do that. So it's very visual. It's clear what those levels are. Again, it's levels on a high. Or if you will go on a daily trading, you will have to readjust those levels because on a daily you will need to have much more precise levels. So usually, what I do in this specific case, let's imagine I take the decision to buy or to sell. Actually, the tool is telling you, we call it a deal maker. It's a very, very simple one. What it does, it actually, if the price right now is in between those 2 levels. So imagine a situation, some of you decided, okay, Microsoft is in my watch list. I really want to buy it. It's an interesting one. So right now, I believe it will bounce from 168 level. So if it will bounce, it will actually give you a possibility to have a profit of 4.5%, because if it bounces, the minimum profit you should make, it's actually next level. But you can believe that it's going to be higher and it will go up to 190, for instance, for whatever reason. So of course your profit will be, this is actually a minimum profit to be made. So basically stop loss, if the price is going really down, you should put it over here. So ATR, it's actually going to be this level and a little bit lower here. So if the price is breaking here, you will have, you could place your stop loss and then you don't actually go down to the 150 level. So you sell it almost over here. So you have some sort of a support here. That you take yourself. I usually don't put for the midterm investment the stop loss, only if I do some day trading and where I'm not sure. But usually for the things that I do with mid and long term, I don't put the stop loss. It's a choice. You can also put a poll. You can, if you want to protect, you can have some sort of the insurance with the buy an additional put call. Again, I will not explain what it is, but there are ways how you can secure yourself. So, and this is actually just to give you a high level information, what could be your profit if you go long, or if you believe you have to go short. So if you have instruments like interactive brokers and you're allowed to do the short selling, actually at this point you can say, okay, no, I believe it's going to go down from 168, it's going to just continue to fall. And actually it will tell you, in this case, the target is 163, which is quite clear that this is the next level where it potentially can break, and it's 3%. So in reality, you take your decision. No, I mean, whatever will happen right now, it's not an interesting profit taking into account commissions and everything else, right? So you expect something more. Maybe from this point, from 175 to 190, it's something which is very interesting, right? So there you could potentially make around 15%. So that's about the support and resistance. I think it's very important. One always tries to understand. So for you, it's actually to understand where I am, how the market is behaving, what is above, what is below, where it potentially could stop. right? So if I place my bid where actually I can average it down, where I potentially could fall. So that's important to know. Otherwise, you are like in a completely open space without understanding what would happen. So another thing, what you can do is to find the Fibonacci levels. So it's also levels that are here, but we don't use it in a technical, in the signal for the moment. Fibonacci, it's basically the quite standard practice. So it takes the 5 ranges from down to, on the full graph, from down to from up to down, and then it shows you the levels where potentially the bounce could happen. So you see, for instance, how you can treat it. It started over here, it fell to the Fibonacci level here, then it went up, it went up, it went up. So normally in the chart we discussed, it was all the possibilities where correction potentially could have happened. So right now it actually went completely above that line. So this is how you have to treat it. So it's really optional. You should not take it really firmly. That's my suggestion. Again, you might have a much more stronger belief that Fibonacci makes sense than something else. Then of course you can do it, but that's my just personal belief. So volume by price. So volume by price, it's actually an information where the majority of the deals were made in a buying or selling. So red one is, and the color, the more gradient it is, the more transactions you have. You can actually show the complete volume. So it's a horizontal volume. So you see at this specific level, you can consider it as a level. So you had a lot of buyings. You see all these spikes over here, right? Selling is here. So you immediately see that if the price is there, it's actually in the zone where the companies were really selling that. And here it's where it was buying, here the same. What I usually do, and what I send usually to the group, is that I do this. So you actually can see it's actually independent. So we don't take volumes right now into account, right? So volumes are independent, and it's not in the signal. And it's not in the logic of the support and resistance that we have made, but you see it really overlaps. You see it completely catch the range over here. This is the one is perfectly catched. This one completely correct, and this one as well. So it's really in those important zones, which confirms that the logic of the levels correctly correlates with the volume which was made and the power that is here. That's very important to know. So that's why I would say right now, don't buy Microsoft. If you are bullish, again, it's a personal opinion, don't treat it as the call for action. If you want to have possibility to go long to Microsoft, try to do it maybe at least on 163 level, at least, not on 168. Most probably it will go down, and then it will stop over here. So you see the logic. It was a lot of volumes in the past at this point, and it's quite a strong level comparing to this level number 3. That's how you need to understand it. So let's stop here. Another thing we have is a pivot point. I will not stop on this one. It's not an interesting one. Another thing, how you need to treat and make the analysis. It's also in the regression. So you better, if you really need long term, try to find bullish patterns. What is a bullish pattern? It's actually something that is growing. So for instance, we all know the company Teva. We've invested in this one, and I know we all made profit, which is great, but that was a little bit not the same as what you see here. So you see Microsoft is on the 3-year basis. You can of course adjust it. So on a 3-year basis, which is quite long term, the company is growing really well. So it's a quite nice level of attack over here. If you go to the company Teva, just to show you, this is a very interesting Israeli pharmaceutical company. You see regression is quite low. So usually the market is always following the trend, which means that yes, you could make money, and we've invested all over here, and then we sold it out over there, or even higher. I think I sold somewhere there, whatever. But it actually quite hard. So you really need to catch the low level. And that's where you can make profit, which is a bit more harder because on a long term, you know, if you're not selling that on time, you could have an issue that it will go down, 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 down. So from this point of view, try to stick to the companies that are growing, and this growing on the long term, linear growth, regression, you can see with this function over here. Another thing is that, you know, all the beautiful people that are working for the investment banks, these are the people that are making their analysis. They publish that, and for example, if you will go officially, you will have around maybe 20 different or 30 different analysts that are given different pricing. So we are getting this data, we are making, and usually they have 1 year target. So we discount that to adjust it to the existing level. So you can do it with your specific discount rate if you really want it, but I would suggest just don't touch it. So you show the maximum, what analysts are saying, and what is the average right now, and what is the minimum one. So if the price of that's basically their spread. You can see it for any other company as well. Let's say I just showed Teva. Sorry, not this one. Ah, shit. I'm too fast. Let's start with Amazon, and then I will jump to Teva. Demo effects. So with Amazon, some analysts are saying it's 2,000 for 2,600 something, right? The maximum that you can see right now. If you check all the analysts officially publishing that, that's what they say. In fact, right now they are on a medium price, the same we have seen just right now for the Microsoft, right? Here they are. You see that the price is actually, with the discounted rate of expectations of what analysts are having, is actually on a fair value right now. So if it goes below that one, yeah, potentially you have the upside. But again, it's very, very fluffy. So these analysts, you all know that sometimes they are saying, like for Tesla in Q3, I remember one analyst was saying that the price could be $10, right? So which is a bit insane. So taking that into account, it's you should treat it really as an optional information, right? So if you see everything is down, 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 and you have so much opportunity to growth, yeah, this is something how you can understand it. Extreme points. So it can be considered somehow as the levels. So why we need it? We actually potentially gonna use it as the logic to build the signal. So you see that this functionality that we have is actually checking where the pattern has changed. So this is actually the story for this. You can't really use it. It was really made for the technical analysis that we made. Trend lines. This is the trend, very similar to the regression, but it takes into account, again, just the same stuff that I just showed. So earning report dates. This is just to highlight that, okay, here was the earning result, and then what happened? Ex-dividend date. If you're trying to do something with a dividend, that's what they paid it. So another thing, interesting one to know. So the major 1 day profit or loss. So it's actually not profit or loss, it's actually a change. So within a day, a company have made more than 5% growth or less, or dropped 5%. And then you can see it over here. So if you have company Teva, do I have a chance? Yes, I have a chance. You will see it over here. You see, with Microsoft, it was not a case. It was just recently during the crisis. But with Teva, it was really the whole year of roller coaster. You can adjust it if you really want it. Maybe 5%, it's something not very interesting for you. Oops, sorry, I'm pressing some wrong buttons. You put only 10%, and then you see all these beautiful gaps down, or on the opposite side, the upsides, right? You know, it's really for your analysis. It's not taking. We are not taking that information into the buy or sell. But if you do your analysis, as long-term investor, it's something you should you potentially want to see. So these are all the things I just showed. Do you have any questions so far? Later I will go in and explain how the technical how you can adjust your signal.
I have a question about the screener or watch list. Any chance or any way to import the watch list from Yahoo or something instead of adding one by one?
It's just one column, so you just paste it from Yahoo to Excel and just leave one comment, save it as a CSV file, and that's it.
So you can just, technically speaking, you can import it, right?
Yeah, you can. You can the watch list. It's just the data in a text file with one column, just the tickers.
Cool.
That's I've sent today earlier today to the chat a screenshot showing an example. Yeah.
So yeah, just copy paste your watch list and import it there. Maybe it's a good thing because I can say that indeed from UI it's not so obvious. So it's import data, but which data it's not saying. So for sure transactions for the watch list it's going to be the same. So it is possible. Cool. Let's go to Teva. Let me add it as well to the watch list. So whatever you feel you have to add, boom, you see it immediately over there. Then, for instance, if you have made this analysis, so you found that, for example, Teva is right now something to buy. By the way, there are some primitive things. If you don't want to see the screener, you can do it like this. If you want to buy it at some point, of course, you can also do it. You say, I bought thousands of shares. Usually it takes the latest pricing right now. But for example, you were lucky to buy it for $9, whatever, 20 seconds. That's how, if you did something, then immediately you will see this in your portfolio. So you see Teva, it's already here. It's actually becoming part of your story. You see your total portfolio, total loss, right? Or profit, and then you see the same signal. So the same information is just flying from different tabs.
Eugene, could you maybe just show also like a combined versus aggregated view for the portfolio? So just buy one more time the Teva, for example, just to show that you can see each individual trade.
Yes. So indeed, this is what I showed with SBAU, for instance. So. And then, for instance, you bought for $8, I don't know, 16th of April, you bought another thousands of shares. So it's immediately locked there. Normally, what we are trying, again, it's something we have in mind, but you should be able, normally in the future, with the Telegram bot that you have, you will be able to say buy Teva, whatever kind of stuff, and then it will send the information via the bot into the portfolio, so you don't need to log in and do all this kind of stuff. So we're thinking how to do it correctly. So you see 2 transactions of Teva. So of course you see the dates. If you want to remove it and delete it, of course this is something that is possible. On portfolio you see the aggregated view, right? So this is aggregate, or you can see performance per each investment you have made, so one by one. So you see, for instance, the one that I just recently made has more profit than it was before, and so on and so on. So I usually use the aggregated version, right? So just the total amount of shares, it makes the average cost basis that you have made. Here is the latest price, this is the change, and this is extended change. So extended change is something that you have post-market or pre-market. How the signal is working. The signal is actually here. So here are a few parameters. So there is RSI 14, RSI 2, MACD, B-bands, and what it does actually. So for instance, let's take RSI. Here is the RSI 14 and RSI 2. These are very, very popular things that you need to, that usually are taken into account. So here you see those two graphs over here. This is the, let's say, not a long-term one, but it's a 14 days. So how it performs in 14 days. This is how it performs in 2 days. So you see it's much more volatile over here. So practically what happens is that RSI in practice, if it goes to the red zone, it's a sell signal. If it goes to the green zone, it's a buy signal. So what is done here is that RSI, you should treat it as RSI2 is much more fast. So if it's going very fast down, then it's a potentially an upside on a day trading thingy, and so on and so on. So for this one is much more long-term one. So over here you see, for instance, RSI itself. Maybe I will do it as well. So you see the graph. That's a really, if you open Yahoo Finance, you will see exactly the same information. So what you can adjust as well, it's not here. It's either the range from 30 to 70, so the signal will calculate it from 30 to 70 or from 20 to 80. So 30 to 70, it's much more aggressive. 20 to 80, it's much more conservative. So you say, okay, only if it reaches 20, which you see is happening not very often, then I want to have it as a 100% signal. So let me show, maybe I will show only one because I have two, and then it confuses my explanation. So let's take only RSI 14. So, and I will remove total signal. So here is the graph. That's what happens, and that's what you can see in any either stocks. And here you see the signal. So right now, at this point, when RSI reached 81.6, it actually gave you a sell signal, right? So at this point, you will see over here, if you only trade on RSI, you will see sell signal 100, which is quite a lot, right? Or the opposite thing on the buying side. If I will adjust it back to the 3070, you will see it's gonna be even more aggressive, because it's on a 3070. It's a range which is a bit more thinner, and then it gives you a much more immediate reaction. And then buying is also aggressive. So you see at this point, RSI was saying buy, right? And that's what you see here. So that's how the logic, and of course, the moment it goes here and there, the signal is adjusted. So you see it's growing, or it's falling, or it's going, or it's falling. So, but it's clear that only from RSI point of view, this point over here was already oversold in February. So the same logic happens with all the other signals. You also have levels. So maybe let's take into account what is levels. So I remove levels. You see only the signal of level. And if you want to trade only based on the levels, and levels, as you remember, are here, support and resistance. That's how you have it. So, sorry, it's an RSI. Why it says RSI? It's actually selected levels. I think we have a small improvement to make. The levels signal is actually levels, not RSI over here. So
no, but it's okay. It's okay. You show the RSI, the indicator.
Where?
No, go to the to here.
Shit, I'm stupid. Yes, I was talking too much. So here is the indicator for the levels. So you see right now the way it's done. It's not extremely interesting, so we need to have a little bit more information. So it only, I mean, for selling, it's not the best. However, for buying, it works quite okay. So it actually catches that it has a very good level, but we need to have an additional logic. So right now you can use that. So it's just an additional option. And how the total signal is working is that right now, it will just basically use only level signal with this setting. So it's 100% of what you will see in the totals. So it's a consolidated one. And here, wait a sec, Here is a total. So total will be exactly the same one as the levels one. How you can adjust it back? So it's one-to-one.
Just maybe show the, if you could show also the watch lists here, so that they can see that the signals are changing.
Yeah, so maybe let's take cola, what it has here. So based on the Coca-Cola levels, it's screaming right now to sell. So yeah, it's screaming to sell right now. If you add additional parameters into the story, for example, Bollinger Bands, it's another indicator which is quite interesting as well. Right now, the total value of power that you have is actually 200, and then it's making a combination, right? So the more signals you've made, the more information you have. So right now, I will remove completely the levels from here. So you will see only the total signal. So right now what it does, it actually combines signal of five different things, 5 different indicators, and 4 indicators and 1 level that are taken into account. As I said, that's a point where I say we could add more information, but we only added something which we've tested. So, and that's where we can say that, okay, this is the interesting one. So if you put all the signals on 100, you have the total 500, and then basically each signal, each one of those are having the weight of 20%. If you want, for example, to say, no, levels actually are, well, I don't care really about levels. I don't want to see them in the signal. I will just take my decision based only on those indicators. It is possible to make. You just put it on 0. So levels are not playing any role right now in the decision of the signal. So it's only those 4 indicators. And that's how you see the signal. So you see, you should have buy here, you should have buy here. That's how the information is interpreted. So you can adjust it the different ways you want. So in my case, I usually play depending on the situation. What is important as well to adjust is that right now it's also selected as auto level strength. So you can actually, what you can do, you can say that for the level signal, you can adjust it and show only the levels starting from 10. So in this point, maybe that's an interesting case I will show right now. So again, I'm just, I didn't really prepare my words for this part. So I'm just really navigating here. So I select the total signal, the signal is only working on levels. I give it a half.
Just don't forget to untick the auto checkbox.
Which one?
The auto, yeah, this one.
Yes. Now, I took only the powerful levels. So number 10, if you want to see which one of those, the automatically important ones are actually 4. So the tool automatically selected that for Microsoft, the power should be 4. That's our important ones. So strength 1 is completely removed. Now, if I put actually the way I just did it, so level 10, only show me the power, the super power levels. We have demo effect here. I don't see the graph. I know what to do. Resize the screen and it will help you. So I only took the 10. So you can see right now. So right now I show the strength 10. So if you select the super powerful levels, I actually, by the way, we always show the super low and super high. It's not in the signal, but it's something that just to show you the range, right? So we always just show it on the UI. So here there are only 3 levels that support 10. That's why 10 is not really representative, because here you see there was a lot of games at this point. So it makes no sense to select 10. So if you will then reach how you have to understand it. So the moment it reaches the level 10, then you see on the level side a buy signal, right? So here the price is on the level, it's level 19. Okay, buy it, because then you expect to have a bounce going up. Then it reaches another 10-1, it's also the other one. So we don't have the accumulation effect of the levels. This is something we tried already, but it didn't work very well. So it's something that is ongoing, and later I think we will release it. So it will improve the level signal right now. Right now it's really discrete. So the price is just taken into account, the signal is just taking into account the exact level and where the price is against this level. So if I say that I want actually to adjust signal to 5, right, or maybe to 4, so this is the one which the tool selected automatically as the good one. So we can have it like this, and then your price will readjust as well. Then you see immediately that there was some buying points at this point as well. You see the same stuff, so you see that the adjustment has been made. As well, if you want to take into account pre-post markets, so right now it only takes the closing time. So it takes the time or the actual time, that is if the market is open, right? If you want to analyze, because there are some games that are happening after the market is closed or when the market is not yet open, so pre-market, post-market. If you want to take that into the consolidation, so into the analysis, it is possible. Just select that button, and then it means that during the night your information will be readjusted as well. So especially usually it's like this. So it will take right now the information, just to be clear. So in the previous one, it has taken. Where is my screener? So for Microsoft. For the analysis without that selection, it has taken the price 169 over here, and on the post-market extended change, it was actually 47% more. So it has taken this amount as for the level calculation or anything else.
For example, if you have your watch list, so when you have like 500 tickers or something like that. And if you want to limit it and only look at, for example, the stocks that are, for example, are above the moving average of 200 days, for example, then by changing these filters, setting the corresponding filter, the watch list over here will be adjusted accordingly.
I remember I told you about the regression, right? So 3-year regression should be above, for example, above some specific, wait a sec, let's put, which one would I want to, okay, moving average 50. So you see right now, you don't have Teva anymore here, because that does not follow the logic. So maybe let me show you. So what it did. So this you will not be able to see. So here in a predefined list, here, this is let's say a fast one, you don't even want to see that it happened or it didn't happen. So what it just did, so 3-year regression, here it is. No, it's not here. So this is 3-year regression. Now let me put moving average 50. This is it. So you see, I just made a filter. 3-year regression should be higher than 50, than simple moving average 50. So this line basically has to be higher than moving average. Here it means that regression is lower. So it's actually to say that it's a stock that potentially in a downfall, and in this situation, I don't even fundamentally want to treat it, and I don't want even to see it. So you're unfiltering some stuff based on the parameters. There is, for example, PE, right? So if you want to have PE higher only than, who doesn't know what is a PE? It's a price per action. price per earnings. I already puzzled the words. So PE, for example, the average one for the last 100 years is 15. Right now, the normal on the market is 15-20. So let's say this is it. So I want to filter on PEs higher than 20 or lower than 20. In this case, you see that you have only conservative Teva. Why? Because Teva has a PE which is very low because it has a couple of dramas for the opioid crisis. Or if you want to see very aggressive ones, super growing ones, more than 100, for example. 100 you don't have, but if you will add Netflix, you will have it. So the more PE you have, the more expectations investors are having for this specific stock. So that's how you need to understand it. So all this information is, let's say, very standard available. And then you can play with this. So you can add more filters. And if you have some beliefs that you don't buy, if the moving average or price per earnings or some specific other information is, I don't know, even analyst target price is there, you can just simply remove it and you won't see it in your information. So that's what it is. I personally didn't use that for quite a long period of time, so that's why I was trying to find my words. Right now I removed back, and then you have the full watch list over here to work with.
But one example could be because some traders, for example, don't trade stocks that are below 200 moving average, for example.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one typical example of usage of such filters. Or like, indeed, as you said, low PE stocks. Yeah.
Yes. And those signals, of course, should go to your Telegram that you already shared. So it didn't work right now in a demo effect, but we'll sort it out just after the call. This is everything I wanted to share for today. We actually went through the whole functionality that we have. I encourage you to play with that. If you have right now any questions, I'm happy to answer. Go ahead. That's how you should understand it. And then, of course, all this information is in the notifications that you receive. So first of all, you see that the latest signal was made on the UTC, so in 21:33. So it's the time when the signals were updated. You see that Coca-Cola was buying something. You see Teva has reached your profit where you selected. So for example, for the notifications, that's what you want to see. I explained this part in the beginning, but here is another stuff. So for instance, you see, you remember that the level of the signal for buy and for sell. Oops. The level for signal was maximum 100. So if it's by 100, normally you should treat it as okay. The tool, from the technical point of view, from the way you have adjusted your signals, it's giving you 100. So it means it's a buy opportunity. So you go, you check, and you take your decision. Do you want to follow it or not? But for example, you see right now that these signals are actually, wait, I will go back to the screen, this way. So it's actually 87, 80, 35, 11, and so on and so on, right? So for buying, this is actually not a signal to you at all, right? So 35 is very low. So what you can do here, you can select it. Okay, I only want to see, I only want to see 90 or 95, for example. So super strong ones to buy and to sell. Everything else, I don't care, right? And then you will actually shrink it to the position where it only gives you a very, very aggressive signals. Usually I put 90. So with the way I put my adjustments for the level, for the signal, I put 90. I believe it's something that I want to be aware of. So 90, it means that maybe the deal is not yet to be placed, but it's a good opportunity to follow it in the short term. So I have 500 stocks, for example, to follow. Right now I see, okay, from 90 I actually have only, I don't know how much, only 5. So I keep that in my short-term memory. So maybe every day I check only those 5 to see how they perform and whether I should place my bid or not. Then if you want to know highlight earnings, so if you want to get this information before, so like this one, So you see, it's information that will come, and it's an important one. So the tool will notify you. Okay, they have the 2 weeks before you get notifications. Be ready. In 2 weeks, there potentially could be a huge move, right? So you can put 1 week, or you can put I don't know, 45 weeks, whatever kind of stuff. Profit target. This is an interesting one. So the moment you bought something, and then you're sure that you want to actually sell it at some specific take profit scenario, you don't want to follow every day. I know some of you, and I do it as well. Quite usually, I check my profit normally every day. But if you want to be notified that, okay, my profit reached 20%, you put it here, and then it stays there. So what it does right now, it actually tells you that, okay, here is the notification, Teva, you reached your profit, 27. If I will put if I will put right now 30%, that's my expectation. I only sell it with 30%. Everything else is nothing. You know, with me, I usually put 5-10%. So like that, you don't have this notification anymore. So it's not interesting for you at all. Now, notifications for the portfolio, 5 pre-post. So if something is moved 5% or more, on a post market 2% and 0.5 or more, and the same for the watch list. So out of 500, you see which ones of those are moved very rapidly. Normally you have, for those who have Yahoo Finance, that's what you usually get. The price grew 10% and so on and so on. So they basically notified that there was a jump. This is exactly the same. And if you want to be notified about your portfolio low week, this is something you can do. Always you can put it on the defaults, like I just did, and then of course it will do what it had made. That's actually everything. Yes, of course it sends you the signals, right? Nothing to send because nothing has been reached.